Okay, so I think we are already set for our meetup today. So welcome everyone for those who are listening in to our meetup. So this is meetup number 18, breaking into artificial intelligence. So for this meetup, we are glad that we have able to invite industry practitioners to share their stories, how they were able to build a career in AI. And I hope this meetup would gain a different understanding on how they were able to build a career, and hopefully this would inspire you to also build your own career into artificial intelligence. So this event is supported by deeplearning.ai through their pilot and AI meetup. So Pi and AI is a series of deep learning AI meetups across the world in which it is hosted independently by several community groups. So this event is hosted by AI Pilipinas. And hopefully after this event, you need to accomplish a post-event survey. Once you've finished accomplishing the post-event survey, you will be receiving 50% off for the first month subscription to any deep learning AI courses on Coursera. So if you're not familiar yet with all of those courses, so just go visit the website of deeplearning.ai. So there's a lot of courses there that would help you start your journey towards artificial intelligence. So before we head straight into our panel discussion for tonight, I will just have a quick rundown introduction towards what is AI Pilipinas as a community. So AI Pilipinas started way back in 2017. So it started as a TensorFlow and machine learning Philippines community. And the primary goal is to help educate Filipinos and be able to grow and build also a network of collaboration coming from industry professionals, academe, and scientists. And hopefully this community would prosper and build a community that is able to help one another to achieve our goal to be one of the leading AI countries across the globe. So right now we have at around 1,600 plus member on Facebook group. So if you are not yet part of our Facebook group, please go visit the link provided on this slide. And then we also have a meetup page. You can just go visit our meetup.com/AI Pilipinas. We have at around 800 plus members there. We usually post our events on all of those pages so that if you're part of it, you will immediately get a notification and get immediate announcement or access to the registration link. So we have been doing events for the past few years. So when we first started the community, we have been present in various locations across the Philippines. So we've been in Davao, in support with different community, our tech community also on those spaces. We have been doing workshops as well in Manila with respect to TensorFlow, but we have expanded our work not only focusing on TensorFlow and grow the community itself to cater to different various technologies and different practitioners who are gaining slowly and building slowly their career on the emerging field of artificial intelligence. So in the past few years, we have also been hosting and collaborating with Google, hosting such big events such as the TensorFlow Dev Summit. And we have been collaborating and closely working together with different tech community groups such as the Globe Labs from Globe, and then we have been working closely together also with Google, working also with the Microsoft Developer Group to host these meetups. But since we are on a pandemic, we're moving all of those meetups online. So this gives us also the capability to not only reach people in Manila, but also go beyond Manila, reaching out to other far-flung cities and provinces across the Philippines. Actually, we also have some attendees here tonight coming from different countries as well, who Filipinos who are working on different countries. So we are happy to have you guys here and join the community. So last year, we are also privileged to host our first ever machine learning hackfest and was able to build this collaboration with NGOs and capitalize also on the talents of all of the people here who are doing their best to continuously improve themselves and continuously build and grow their knowledge towards artificial intelligence and machine learning. And we are happy to accommodate if you want to be a speaker for our upcoming meetups. Our next meetup would happen end of the month. We will be announcing the speaker for that, and then on August we will be having a meetup together with Amazon Web Service. And if you want also to be a volunteer, don't hesitate to visit the links provided below. So just for our webinar rules and guidelines. So again, you can use a chat option on Zoom. If you have any message that you would want to share to our panelists and to to everyone here or joining us in this call. And then you can also use a Q&A box if you have any questions. So later, I'll be asking our speakers to answer some of the audience questions. So if you have any questions during the actual conversation with our invited speakers for tonight, please feel free to type in your QA on the Q&A box. All right, so I'll be now have a quick introduction of our speakers tonight, and then I'll be asking them one by one as well to have a quick introduction about themselves as to like what they have been doing for the past few weeks on the pandemic. So our first speaker is a data scientist at 06. Together with her colleagues, they love to build and deploy data and AI products for both their clients and for social good. She enjoys tinkering with data, creating dashboards, and conducting workshops on Google's Data Studio. And she is a career shifter, having a bachelor's degree in management and eventually took her master's in computer science. She previously worked as a business analyst, a project and a product manager in a telco industry, then took a leap in the world of data science. Let's just welcome our first speaker for tonight, Nyssa ko. Maybe Nyssa can open her camera. Hi, Nyssa.
Hello. Hi,
maybe
everyone.
maybe you can share some word about you, about what have you been doing for the past few weeks in the pandemic, and what are the projects that you guys have been currently doing. It's okay if you can't share anything that's under confidentiality, but if you can like share what you have been doing for the past few weeks, that would be best.
Okay, sige. So, hi, everyone. So, my name is Nyssa. I'm from 06, and I'm a data scientist there. Um, so what I've been working for the past few months actually is more of I have a client project, but it's more of a BI solution. So, we set up their infrastructure at the back end in the hopes that we can use data science um, on it in the future. So, nandun pa lang siya sa early stages and medyo madugo kasi I have to study certain terms and concepts kasi sa insurance siya. So, hanggang doon na yung pwede ko ma-share.
All right. Thank you so
And
much,
then,
Nyssa. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
so kung about me lang, I just want to share na parang I first heard of data science career way back in 2011. And then I was just a fresh grad before. So I read up on it, like the job description. I got interested, but I don't know how to do one. So for starters, what I just did is to apply to an IT department of a telco company nga. And then from there, I was introduced to SQL. So I already had a background now of data manipulation and analysis using Excel, which I really loved way back in college. But then this SQL is a much more powerful tool, and I fell in love with it and all that it can do with the data. So that prompted me into pursuing my computer studies in LaSalle. So yun siya, yung story.
All right. Yes. So we'll be hearing that story probably on a deeper perspective of what made you decide to jump on those and have those shift in your careers later. So thank you so much, Nyssa, for giving an insight as to like what we're going to expect tonight. Okay, so our next speaker is a data scientist at Security Bank Corporation. She currently takes on ad hoc data science projects to support management decisions in achieving the company objectives. This involves applying exploratory data analysis and machine learning techniques to address specific business problems. She worked in the banking industry prior to becoming a data scientist, specifically in the business intelligence and data warehouse groups, where she handled dashboard reports and data quality testing for system across the bank. Last year, she represented her team at the ADB AIM Hackathon and pitched the group solution for the track Digital Skills for Today's Workforce. They placed third among hundreds of applicants from different countries. In her spare time, she loves to jam with her friends by playing the piano, and she would also love to visit the Highclere Castle someday. I wonder where is this place. So let's give a virtual applause to our next speaker, Elisa Junior Nebres.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
Elisa.
So,
Maybe you can.
that was a long description pala.
It's okay. It's okay. Maybe you can talk about yourself more if we missed something, and then maybe you can share what you have been doing for the past few weeks.
Basically, that's it, the summary of what I've been doing. But currently, during the past 3 weeks, I've been doing some practicing with the guitar and some going back to old hobbies I have.
All right. I wonder where is the Highclere Castle, by the way. Which country is this?
Actually, it's the castle in Downton Abbey.
Okay.
I love watching that series, so just a little bit of trivia.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Elisa. All right. So our next speaker is an emerging technology engineer at the Asian Development Bank as part of ADB's digital transformation strategy. He is responsible for managing the design, developing a solution, and pilot testing of AI initiatives under the Digital Sandbox program. This involves engaging with different business units within the bank to understand their pain points and address this by developing AI solutions. Apart from this, he is working under the De La Salle University Data Science Institute as part-time instructor where he conducts classes and helps in the development of course materials. On his free time, he loves annoying his two dogs and is learning how to play different songs on the ukulele. So, pwede na tayo makapagbuo ng band nito siguro after. So, let's welcome Sashmir Yap. Hi, Sash.
Hi everyone. Good evening. Ang haba din pala nung intro ko. Sorry.
Anything that you want to add or like anything that you want to share to our attendees tonight?
I guess what I've been doing for the past few weeks for ADB, we're checking out a chatbot, developing a chatbot for ADB, trying to optimize systems in them. But yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Sash. So for our last speaker, he is an artificial intelligence research engineer at Senti AI, where he has worked on machine learning projects for the country's biggest name in telco, travel, and media broadcasting. He is also an active member of AI Pilipinas and is a proud graduate of computer science program from Holy Angel University, Pampanga. He is currently taking his master's degree of uh, Masters of Computer Science at De La Salle University, Manila. Let's welcome Arian Yambao. Hi, Arian.
Hi guys. Hi sir. Good evening. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. It's so nice to be here, guys. So I think that was a short introduction. Among call. And yeah, sorry, I'm a bit nervous.
Kaya naman na natakot.
Hindi
Anything that you want to
naman.
add?
Parang it's just different lang na kasi before, di ba, I'm the one who's watching the panelists. Now I'm one of them. So it's kind of big shift. So for the past few weeks, what I've been doing was, ayun, Sir Ralph mentioned yung media broadcasting. So we recently finished our project there, which involves ML, of course. And now I have on a team. We're working on with an airline company. So we've just started. So that's what I've been up to now for the past weeks.
All right. So thank you very much, guys, for having a quick introduction and sharing with us what you have been doing for the past 2 weeks. I know it's been probably hard on the adjustment and having collaboration with your peers and then having this pandemic. But I hope we are doing our best to still do our best and in our work. Okay, so probably we'll head straight to our panel proper and I'll be asking a list of questions for you guys so that we can help our attendees here, especially for those who are still exploring or in the stage of exploring themselves, if this is a good career path for them, especially for those who also don't have an idea yet as to what to expect if they jump into a career, especially on data science or on machine learning. So what to expect. So there are different attendees here tonight that would definitely gain some tips from you guys since you have done a lot in your journey shifting from different type of jobs and learning also by yourselves and taking a lot of time to go in depth uh, understanding ano ba yung ecosystem ng data, ano ba yung ecosystem ng machine learning. So, first question, I think I would refer it to everyone. So, when did you realize that you would want to get involved in artificial intelligence and data science? Maybe we can start with Nyssa.
Thank you, Ralph. So me, I've been always been curious and fascinated kasi with automation and computers. So my first exposure to AI was during my master's where we had to learn and understand how to develop intelligent systems. So in there, parang, for example, we have to create this, we have to solve this machine problem. For example, there's an agent and it has to go through a maze and find the goal. So parang you have to design that the agent can do it on its own. So for me, it was really fun and challenging task because syempre as a newbie, I didn't know how to code back then. But then I really liked it for it to happen kasi. So when I was able to accomplish the goal, I felt really happy and I thought this is what I really want to do. Parang ganun. So parang okay, I want to go AI. So that's it.
Okay. Ikaw naman Elisa, what started the fire? When did you realize that you would want to work on this space?
Actually, back in college, kasi I took a degree in applied math and comsci. So basically, it's just the basic computer science, but more on the math. Yung story ko kasi is back in after graduation, I was having a hard time getting a job because the thing with our batch is we were mixed with the comsci people. So although we have the basic programming and basic concepts of computer science, when we were pooled with the other interviewees or the applicants, they were more of an advantage because they know the web programming, the application development, and I didn't even know what SDLC means during that time. So what I thought was after trying so hard many times, so I settled with a data warehousing company. So with that data warehousing company, so parang I discovered there's a lot, it's literally a sea of data. And then it goes somewhere else in the business side. And it's being, so what I thought it was being used for a certain way. So that's where I started to learn that you can extract insights from the data, from the reports that we were doing. And then from there, I did my research on AI, machine learning, and data science. And just a quick, parang a little trivia. One thing, interesting movie that I saw is if you have seen Moneyball. So it's a basically a baseball movie, but with a data analytics or data science part of it. So when I saw that, sabi ko, "Uy, wow, that's a really really good job." So even though that basically the story is they were doing a team, a baseball team. So even though parang the players were not really sikat or they don't have this whole package, but they have this certain characteristics that would contribute to the team. So they did statistics and data analysis with that, and then they won a series, World Series with that. So it was really interesting. So sabi ko, I want to have that sort of job. So
Okay.
that was back like 10 years ago or
Wow.
8 years ago. So yung AI and data science wasn't really defined. So that's just statistics, math, and some computer programming. So sabi ko, oh, okay. So that's pretty much what sums up I want to do. So the mixture of all of those things. So that's what started me with AI.
That's a nice story, Lisa. Like being interested uh, from yun nga, experiencing it on a data warehousing on how the
Mhm.
business is actually converting all of those data, and then being enticed of the space itself because of like the movie that you watch. I think 8 to 10 years ago, wala pa talagang
Actually,
this,
it was really hard. Parang 10 years
yeah.
ago, parang I didn't know. I was like, I don't know what I would want to do during those times. So parang, okay, but I wanted something quantitative, something that's practical and concrete. And sabi ko, okay, so it's data. That's the key. So from there, after a few, uh, parang three types of work, so I got into data science and AI.
Okay. So si Nyssa was get interested of like playing around with the agents nung nag-take siya ng masters and you on the movies. Ikaw, Sash, parang when did you reach a point that you realized that you would want to get involved in AI? Parang what's the starting point for you?
Okay. Yung background ko, yung undergrad ko kasi is computer science. So the reason I took up that course was to be a game developer actually. And when I was thinking about that line of work, I realized sobrang hirap pala ng game dev. It's more fun to just play the games instead. Pero yung isang course that really resonated with me was advanced database. So in DLSU, we had a machine project. So we had to create a recommender system, and that would parang ano ba yun? Are you we crawled articles from inquirer.net. I'm not sure if it was legal that time. Pero yeah, we crawled that data source. Tapos we had to create a model that's able to classify the genre of an article. Tapos on top of that, you build a recommender system din. Let's say kung ano yung usage pattern ng user. Magre-recommend siya na, ito na article baka gusto mo din basahin. Parang ganun. Sadly, when I graduated, parang hindi pa uso yung data science, like 2013, 2014. Parang hindi pa siya ganun ka-trending. So I just took up a normal software dev na work. And in 2016, si DOST, T-shirt, nag-offer siya ng AI program. So I applied kasi parang uh, going back dun sa recommender system, parang sobrang interesting nung ganun na projects. So when I when I applied for that seminar or 1 week course, nakapasok naman ako. And parang na-enliven lalo yung interest ko for AI. And that's where I also heard about the master's program being offered by AIM. And yun na, parang tuloy-tuloy na parang data science yung ginagawa.
All right. Okay. That's a nice story, Sash, especially that you mentioned na the first machine project that you were able to build is a recommender system, and that definitely like piqued your interest. I think yeah, when I started also my computer science, parang games din yung yung start ko. Actually, people would definitely be enticed on games. It's kind of hard like to go into the games, and it's good to know that you were able to like start that idea of leveraging data and building those recommender system, and that definitely start your interest on the field itself. How about you, Arian? How did you start building the interest and awareness on AI?
After hearing all of them, actually medyo naiya akong i-share yung sa akin.
That's okay, Arian.
For some people, if you've seen a video from Senti before, yung sa akin started when I was still a kid kasi parang imagine watching a lot of Astro Boy, Gundam, and other mech stuff. It involves a lot of AI. And then growing up, there are like sci-fi movies, and I thought to myself na, damn, I want to be one of those people who's involved and applying those stuff kasi it's really beneficial to a lot of people, and yan, yung good side of AI, of course. And it ignited way back in 2017 where I first started as an intern sa Senti. Kasi it was a bit challenging at first kasi coming from a college where everyone is involved around web lang and mobile. Wala talagang AI dun sa kung saan ako galing. So, when I first joined sa Senti as an intern, dun ako na-expose on how everything works in AI. That's where I learned everything. And yeah, so yung main purpose ko way back when I was a child, yun pa rin yung main purpose ko of why I'm still right here right now. Kasi gusto ko mag-drive ng Gundam when I grow up.
Okay.
That's true,
It's good
guys,
to
by
know,
the
like,
way. To be honest, that's why I'm an applied AI guy.
yeah, it's good to know that you guys have ano nga, parang different starting point as to saang part kayo nagka-spark ng interest with artificial intelligence, and I think that ignited din yung tuloy-tuloy that you na pag-grow ninyo and pag-explore ng field. And probably some of the people here who are joining us also would have a different story as to when they started. Probably they will be sharing that upon hearing you guys here, they started to be inspired by you. It would have a different story. And I think regardless of as to where you guys start and what's important now is you were able to embrace that career and embrace that growth, which is you are continuously making an impact to the jobs and the community in which you are involved. So I think just to probably revisit, what's your first ever project that you made na artificial intelligence, if you still recall? Maybe we can start with Sash.
So, yun, yung recommender system, I guess.
Can you share more about it? Like what recommender? Ano yung challenges mo doon? Parang
Yeah, sure. So, to be honest, when we built that project, wala pa akong alam sa ML algorithms or kung ano yung ginagawa namin actually. Na parang nagko-crawl na pala kami ng data, tapos nagto-tokenize pala kami. So during that time, parang nagpa-follow lang ako ng instructions that I find on the internet or kung ano yung sinasabi ng prof ko. And only to realize nung medyo mas may alam na sa recommender systems na parang gumagawa pa, nagto-tokenize pa ako ng data, tapos tinatanggal ko rin yung words niya doon. And yung ginagamit pa namin during that time was Weka at saka I think nag-Java lang kami for it. Unlike now na sobrang dami ng packages na available and mas convenient.
right. How about you, Nyssa? What was your first project that involves AI?
Can I share something na outside the school requirements? Kasi,
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
yeah, because I was so proud yung latest actually na achievement. We had this activity in work where we want to try GANs and create a fake image. So our task is yun nga, find an online image data set tapos create a fake image. So what I found is the picture of flowers. So I really like pretty things, diba? So they're beautiful and colorful. Luckily, I found one. And that data set is around 8,000 images. So it's enough to train the GANs, no? So in our activity, we use two kinds of library. First is the Fast AI, and then the second is the PyTorch. So we tried the Fast AI first because parang the code is parang madali lang. It's just quick one-liner code and everything. However, when I ran the initial configuration, my browser crashes. So it takes up so much of my memory. I cannot generate anything. So when I try to lower down my epoch or configure some of the settings like yun nga, epoch and learning rate, wala pa rin eh. Parang to the point na it will say there like, oh, you only have 2 minutes left. Then I was really excited na maging successful run siya pero wala pa rin. So parang nung nagkaroon ng successful run, pero pangit yung specs, ang pangit din ng output niya. So sabi nila, okay, let's try the PyTorch library naman. So in that run naman, I tried many configurations until eventually I was able to successfully produce a fake image of a flower. So it looked like an orchid. And then I was so happy. I downloaded it. I also did a recording of how the GANs learned from zero to a fake flower. So yun siya for me.
Okay, okay. Ikaw, Elisa, can you share an interesting project that you were able to create or the first project that you were able to build using AI?
The first project that I can remember that we did was back siguro last year, more than a year ago. So it's about the competitiveness index of a certain province or municipality based on the amenities in that certain municipality. So if there's a bank, if there's a fast food restaurant, so what we did was to crawl data from Google Maps with for each of those uh, the areas, and then took the characteristics like the density, the population density, and then correlate and related it to the competitiveness index using machine learning. So from what I remembered, an indicator of certain municipalities' competitive index is the presence of fast food chain like Jollibee and McDonald's. So I can't remember the exact details of how much it adds to the competitive index, but those two were the main factors: the fast food chain and the banks in the certain city. So it adds up about say 2 to 5% of the competitive index from what I remember.
Okay,
So
okay.
that's the first.
What about you, Arian? If you still far remember, what was the first project that you were able to be involved with? Maybe you can share and talk about it.
Yeah, it was quite kind of recent. I can still remember we created a language classifier for 8 of the local languages or dialects here in the Philippines. So they're mainly composed of Ilocano, Bicolano, Kapampangan, Pangasinense. Have I mentioned Kapampangan? And so in align with Sash din, yung approach ko dun before since I was just starting was kind of a black box. So parang, oh my, it's working. Bakit siya nag-work? Ganun. So parang nahiwagaan talaga ako na, it's being able to classify things and yan. And along with that first project, that's where I learned how important data is. Kasi when you basically just feed a data into a model tapos medyo trash yung data mo, trash din yung output niya. Same with what Miss Nyssa mentioned din. So yun, then ko na-realize na one of the grunt works is actually very important. And it was very rewarding kasi it's actually being used at times dun sa mga models na ginagamit.
Okay, so I think probably one of the questions that I would also like ask to ask, especially what's the difference of like doing just a fun project and doing a real world project na ini-implement niyo itong mga models ninyo on a specific client or in your own organization? What's the shift from that, from a simple course project to a real world project? Maybe you can start, Elisa.
And so for me, I think the big difference is that if you're doing a real life project and real world project, there are other people who have a say on what the output is or on what it should be. So there are a lot of discussion. So at first, during the start of the project, you have to agree in the terms muna kung okay, we're using this data, we need to answer this question. So how long will it take? So it takes a lot of management and preparing an estimate and timeline versus if you want to do it for fun, you can do it anytime. So parang for me, if for fun, you finish it because you like it, and then you have parang unlimited time for you to research on. But with the certain client project, you are bound with a certain timeline, certain resources. You have to really work on it, and then kung may kailangan kang aralin, you have to make double time for it for you to make the deadline. So yun yung I think the big difference of client project and then a personal fun project.
Yeah. Nyssa, what about you? So, as shared by Elisa, yung stakeholders and being able to manage all of those stakeholders is like, what are the challenges, especially if it's a real world project? Based on your experience, what have you observed from a simple course project and then you are now working in a real world project? What are the challenges that you have seen? And I think that would also be helpful for our listeners tonight to explore that, especially for those na nag-start pala ng course project. Ano ba yung difference ng dalawa? On your based on your experience.
For me, medyo same answers kami. It's really true that you have to manage a lot of people. But if I were to think something else, yung nare-relate ko na lang is that whenever we do school projects now, parang sometimes the teacher would forgive if you have lapses or mga limitation, like out of scope na work. Pero pagdating kasi sa work, kailangan makuha mo ng tama eh. Kung ano yung na-decide, kung ano yung napag-usapan, di pwedeng magkamali. Kailangan matest yun mabuti kasi if it fails the testing phase, wala, hindi pwede, ganun. So, kailangan talaga maigi yung pag-develop, like, meet the specifications talaga. Yun
Right.
lang.
That's a nice point, Nyssa, no? Kasi parang, especially pag sa machine learning projects that you need to have that iteration, for example, di ba? And then some of the stakeholders probably wouldn't know what's the actual process kung paano talaga nag-build ng isang model or like AI or na AI project. Sa experience mo ba, Sash, how are you able to manage those type of hindi pa naiintindihan ng stakeholders yung difference as to a software project comparing it to a machine learning project? Have you experienced that type of like challenges, and how are you able to solve that type of challenge, especially that you will be talking to different stakeholders when you work on a project that is a real world project?
So especially with my current role, a lot of it is stakeholder management. So we have to engage with the business on a weekly basis. So a part of that is really educating them how data science works. So for me to be able to translate it into business terms, I would usually create metaphors that relate to experiences. For example, like let's say yung pag-build ng model, you can treat it as like creating a child or having a baby actually. Tapos, in order to have a good accuracy, you need to keep on training that baby in order to become a teenager or an adult or something. That's kind of an expert on that one. So having those kinds of analogies and telling that kind of stuff helps the business in understanding how data science works. And at the same time, we also leverage or we always align with them the expectations na there's a possibility talaga na that things could go wrong because of many factors like yung model na ginagamit, yung algorithm, yung hyperparameters. Para on their side, they're not disappointed in na bakit ito yung promise mo tapos hindi naman siya na-achieve or ganun. So a lot of it is soft skills talaga. Yun yung napansin ko when we transition to real world projects.
Okay. How about you, Arian? So especially that, how do you able to move from that transition of building a course project or building a internal project into a real world project? So what adjustments yung ginawa mo in order for you to be able to parang create those type of projects that are needed by the clients or needed by a specific community?
So for me, it's more fun intrapersonal kasi I will prepare myself for a lot of stress. Kasi we all know that fun projects have this kinds of, for example, this kinds of data lang. It's very small scope. Wherein kapag dumating ka na sa real world, majority of the real world problems, yung data nila usually sobrang diverse, sobrang daming variety, tapos sobrang daming missing data. So, dun papasok yung sinasabi kong stress. Kasi from the ground up, kailangan yung pag-aralan lahat. So, you're not just basically focusing on the model. Kasi regardless, kahit anong model yan, kahit SOTA pa yan, if the data itself on the core nung binigay sa inyo, yung performance and will never achieve whatever you may have promised. So yun yung one of the key things that I have observed from the projects that I've been on before, was yung actually yung data from the real world is sobrang layo from the projects. So before I go to a client project and nagpe-prepare ako ng sarili ko na, okay, agree ako din sa na-mention ng lahat ng panelists, kasi even yung pakikipag-usap mo din with the stakeholders are going to add a lot of stress. I'm sorry guys, it's really happening. So you need to learn interpersonal skills on how you're going to be able to deliver this well, na maintindihan talaga nila, kasi that's also one of the challenges na we have. So we're like the experts and we have to let them know na we're doing this for them as well. And
Okay.
so yan.
So since we're talking about skills, so if you're going to assess yourself, creating and building yung career ninyo in artificial intelligence, what do you think are the necessary skills that a beginner should have, or someone who would be coming from a different industry jumping into this space? Ano dapat yung skills that they should have in order for them to be successful in this career? Nyssa?
For me, one's interest is already a start to. So it's really a matter of acting on it and pursuing it. So I would say that it all boils down for the willingness to learn and the initiative to pursue. So there are a lot of materials out there on the internet, like you can apply and get online courses, go under bootcamp, watch YouTube videos or any online tutorials. Ako in my case, yun nga, parang my undergrad degree is management. Then when I got interested into computers, I pursued it by taking a master's. And then after which, I had a hard time actually finding work. So I took again another data science course from FW Foundation. So yun lang siya for me, the willingness to learn and then to act.
Okay. Ikaw, Elisa, what was helpful for you when you are starting your journey towards your current role right now? Parang, what do you think are the skills that are important besides what Nyssa mentioned of having the interest and taking action into it? On your perspective, ano pa yung sa tingin mo na naging helpful na characteristic and skill that is needed for you to grow this career?
Well, in terms of AI, so important then if you know basic or intermediate math, because in AI, parang you just don't code and see the output. You have to understand how at least the algorithm works. So it's basically hooked on math, and you have to have programming skills also. So I think those two, and also if you have those two already, you should choose your um, field or business expertise you want to try on. So if you're starting or career shifter ka, you should choose which industry you want to work on, because it's there's a lot of topics. It's already one step to choose an industry and focus on those aspects. You apply the math, you apply the machine learning and coding to that certain industry. So for me, those three would be the basic tools and knowledge you need to start your career in AI.
Okay, it's good that you highlight that yung need of being able to understand the intermediate math, because some of
Uh-huh.
the tools right now is like one-liner lang and then it gets executed,
Yeah. Kasi
right?
for example, so magko-code ka, di ba? Function na lang siya eh. Kunyari, back propagation. Back propagation is rooted in derivatives optimization, right? So in Python, it's just you can do it like in one line or two lines. So yun, boom, meron ka ng result. But deep in that function, ang dami niyang nangyayari. So it's nice for you to have a certain, even hindi yung super deep understanding, but know how it does the algorithm would be really helpful.
Okay.
Ayun.
Anything that you would want to add, Sash, as mentioned by Nyssa and Elisa? What do you think are important skills pa that you think that is needed? You mentioned about soft skills,
Mhm.
and on the technical skills, meron ka pa nakikita na kailangan ng
So
mga
for
beginners here. Yep.
Yeah. So for soft skills, I think you need a lot of patience and grit also for this kind of work. Kasi when you say data science, sobrang lawak yun na field eh. And I think it would help also if um, you get a general knowledge of the pipeline, like knowing how to crawl data, how to do the visualization, the inciting, and doing the modeling. But you choose which of that pipeline resonates the most with you so that you can really focus and build your career on that one. Um, as for the tech skills, yeah, I agree with Elisa. I read that it's important to know the math, but you don't have to be an expert at it. For example, for me, I'm not really good at math. You can see my scores in college and even in my master's. I really suck at math. So what I do now is I just understand the intuition behind the math rather than forcing myself to understand the proof or how it was actually derived and all that. So yeah, that's that's it for
Okay.
me.
Yeah, it's good that you highlight that kasi people tend to be, yung nga, parang a lot of memes roaming around, di ba? So parang, okay, mabilis lang yung machine learning kasi one line of code, okay na. And then some people would argue that you need to understand all of the math. It's good that you highlight about the intuition because some people would be having a hard time to understand in depth yung math. Parang feeling nila din na kailangan nila ng in-depth na math. It's good that you highlight that, having that intuition as well and be able to understand on kahit yun nga, paano ba ito nag-work. Hindi naman necessarily kailangan superior ka on that type of skill. It's good that you were able to raise that out. Arian, so what do you think are yung mga na-miss, may mga skills ka pa ba na you think is needed apart from what Nyssa, Elisa, and Sash was able to
Well, I
share?
would just like to add, and I really agree with what they have mentioned, especially on the math side. And I would just like to highlight, guys, now there are two kinds of AI kasi there's this theoretical and there's this applied. So, yung fondness nyo sa math, it would vary in there when you're in the career na rin. And maybe I'll be just relating myself to the attendees right here, right now. Especially when they heard the mathematics, the derivatives, all of the all of the calculus stuff. So most of them, I'm not sure, guys. Pero if maybe you're one of those who was thinking to quit, never ever quit. That's one. And Sash mentioned a lot of patience. Yes, you will be tested with a lot of patience, and always have the willingness to learn. Kasi guys, sobrang daming breaking points dito. Lalo na if you're coming from a new field and if you know in yourself na you're not really good with math. I'll admit I'm not really that good with math as well. But um, everything pwedeng matutunan. And there's a lot of people like the one I'm with here right now. They're willing to teach. Ano yan, 100% guaranteed. So if you're really scared, if you're intimidated, you can always reach out for help. And hindi kami magdadalawang isip to help you guys to start. Yun lang. So never ever quit. There's a lot of time na mahihirapan talaga. Pero kaya yan. It's just like when you, if you're coming from a CS background, when you were first trying to learn yung programming language mo, for sure, marami sa atin nagtanong, paano ba gumagana to? So, ano to? Magic? Ano to? So, parang ang daming jargons, di ba? But, if mapapansin nyo, as you guys practiced yourself, eventually, you're now being able to code your own applications, di ba? So, imagine that, apply it to this field or industry. And never ever think na you're already too late given the age. No, that's not true. You can always start whenever you want. It's just your willingness and just never ever quit. Yan lang.
All right. Thanks for that encouragement, Arian. I think I'll be asking this question, di ba? Parang, yeah, thanks for highlighting all of those skills that you think are relevant at this age And at this point in time na marami na rin nagbe-build ng career artificial intelligence, and yeah, the willingness to learn as well is very important, especially that the field is continuously improving and evolving. And as we know that Google and even big huge companies in the United States and in China also like beating each other with respect to the state of the art technology. So the continuous and the eagerness to learn should be there. And again, as what you guys are hearing from our panelists, all of those tech skills on the tech side and the soft skills would be needed as you progress and grow interest on the space itself. I think this is me asking a different question now, jumping to a different topic, especially for those who are planning to do a career shift. So Nyssa was able to introduce na galing siya sa management. So I'm kind of curious, what made you decide the jump? Especially that siguro wala ka bang nakita na para yung career ko na ipag-iiwanan na ako ng batchmates ko since I did not pursue the management path. How did you combat that type of yun nga, parang were you able to combat na dumating ka ba sa point na gano'n na you were able to compare yourselves na I'm doing this differently and then feeling ko na pag-iiwanan na ako? If not, parang how are you able to combat that type of feeling and how are you able to manage to do that jump and what made you decide to do that jump?
Okay, so my story was that back in my college, parang we're supposed to choose a minor, and then I really like math kasi. So I was leaning into accounting sana, pero wala accounting kasi finance lang yung ina-offer. Eh for me mas challenging yung accounting ganun. So the rest na mga natira na pwedeng interesting pa for me are project management and IT. And then I just chose IT na lang kasi wala lang, I'm fascinated nga with computers. So when I took my minor subjects na, so fourth year na ako nito, then I realized, oh my God, I'm in the wrong course. I should have taken management information systems or computer science nga. I don't know why. Siguro, I just chose a generic path, which is management nga. I still don't know what I want before kasi when I entered college. So it was just at my fourth year that I realized, oh my gosh, sir, parang sayang I was in the wrong course. Pero I don't want to get delayed, so I just finish it. And then sabi ko, okay, I'll just take master's na lang for my studies. So, per ideas lang yun. So, what really prompted me nga is yung mga exposure ko sa job. So, when I graduated, no, parang finish ko na agad, okay, I want to work in an IT department kahit wala akong background. So, yun nga, since I don't have technical like coding skills or whatever, the role that was given to me is more on the PMBA and QA roles na. So, yun lang, parang natuwa lang ako sa ginagawa ng company namin, yung division namin. Ours was on business analytics support. So, we generate nga reports, we establish ETL projects, ganon. So, I really like it. And then, okay, the story was that company was absorbed eventually. Kaya nagkaroon ako ng shift in career. Eh, ayokong matenga. So, sige na nga, try na lang this role, yung product management. So, and then I found myself, I really like technical work. So, sabi ko, sige, I'll pursue na, mag-masters na ako. Ganun. Tapos so at that time, I was working and studying at the same time. And then I really find myself, mas napupulfill ako sa mga projects na na-achieve ko sa school over sa work na mga achievements. So sabi ko, okay, I'll go to this job. So I resigned and focus on my master's, finish it. Total pa, thesis naman na ako noon. So sakto, I need the time. And then, yun lang talaga. Parang there's that sense of fulfillment that made me, this is what I want. And even though it's late, parang, kailan ko pa siya i-discover pag super matanda na ako? Di ngayon na. So, gano'n na lang. So,
Okay.
even okay lang.
Thanks, Nyssa, for that story. How about you, Elisa? Well, you were a technology consultant from HP and then Teradata. Was the shift easy for you from jumping into like your data science position now?
Actually, if you look at my, say, track, it's kind of related in a sense. Like, it's progressing because I started with data warehousing. So that's actually technology consultant. It was my first job. So that was, di ba, I mentioned earlier that I was mixed up with comsci people and then the math people. Ako yung nandun. So yung first job ko was an exposure on what IT is, what's out there sa side ng different systems and all. So that helped me get the job in data warehousing. So data warehousing is actually the pool of data, basically managing a lot of data, standardizing it, putting it into a database for it to be useful to the client. So after that, yung next step actually talaga ng data warehousing is business intelligence, which is what I did in the bank. So eto na yon. So 'di ba earlier I mentioned that okay, this data goes somewhere else. So it's used by something, someone. Okay. So there, ayun, napunta na ako dun sa someone na yon na uses that report. So I've been producing the reports. So basically just doing dashboards and descriptive analysis of what's out there. So basically yung next step talaga nun is once you know what's out there, what can you do with it? What it can predict na, yun na yung next step. So I've been actually lucky na medyo hindi naman lihis yung path ko with that. But as an advice for people who want to change careers, I think there's a lot of resources in the internet, and there's Coursera, there's deep learning AI. But the challenge is that you only have to have that discipline in yourself to actually take the course. So for me kasi, I'm not really good at self-studying. So I want that certain formality of going to class, of taking a course that's actually time-bound. Kasi ang pitfall really pag nagsa-self-study is you can repeat and repeat and repeat on your own time. Tapos nakalimutan, okay, that's 1 year. I planned that to finish a year ago, but I haven't really finished it. So, yun, ang ano lang is discipline on what you want to learn. Tapos, um, I think it's good to talk to people who have been there for for them to advise you what type of courses, ano yung progression na magandang tingnan for that kind of, if you're changing careers and wanted to shift.
All right.
So,
Thanks so much, Elisa. Ikaw naman, ano, Sash. So you were a software developer, right? So was it an easy transition for you to from your role now in ADB? What parang can you tell us your journey? Parang what was your career path look like? Maybe you can share about that.
I guess similar to Elisa, it was kind of smooth then. Coming from my first job was more on ETL. So we had vendor data and then we had to do some transformation and load it into a custom database. And after that short stint, I decided to work for the family business for a time. And when I was in the family business, a lot of it was more on soft skills side, managing employees, um, communicating with your bosses, your parents actually, and um, yeah, a lot of it was soft skills that was molded during that time. And when the opportunity came in for the USD uh, AI camp, that's when soft skills and tech skills made sense. Like I think there was a purpose for each part of that chapter in my life, I guess. And yeah, and now when I'm in ADB, I think the soft skills that I got from working from the family business and the tech skills from my first job, they actually helped me. So it was as kind of a build up transition, I guess also. And I guess advice for people that are also choosing to transition into data science. Maybe, for example, for business people, maybe it would make sense to try and do the insighting piece part or the data visualization piece part. Like choosing low hanging fruits that are kind of translatable based on the current skills that you have. So it doesn't necessarily mean that diretsong programming na ako or mag-aaral na ako ng math. Maybe look for low-hanging fruits that you can think na that will build up your confidence in going into the field.
All right. Thank you so much, Sash. Lahat kayo, you guys are already finished your masters and then some of you are taking a master's. So you think it was a necessary path for you to progress your career? Do you think you would recommend also some of our audience to do the same path, and how it was able to help you grow? Maybe we can start with Elisa.
So the question was to if it's necessary to take the
Yes, yes. Was it
masters.
help? Yeah. Was it what on your career path? Was it helpful for you? And then for our audience, you think it's a necessary path that they need to go through if they would want to progress their career?
For me, it was, I think, necessary, and I'm glad I chose it because I'm a fan of formalities and having some structure. Kasi if you just go out there on your own, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of courses, as I've mentioned. You don't know which ones to start with. And with that degree that I took, the important takeaway ko from that is finding a mentor or finding someone more senior for you to guide on what path for para lang mag-guide ka on anong gagawin mo next. And also in the class, in a formal setting, you meet different people. So these different people have different backgrounds. So kunyari sa class, merong chemist, there's already a PhD student. I mean, finished the PhD. And there are also who are entrepreneurs, having their own businesses and looking into AI. So with the meeting of different minds, you can gain a lot of insights. So for example, I'm from the banking industry. So if there's a businessman, so we learn about logistics, supply chain. So hindi lang restricted yung perspective mo on AI, on what you previously know. So basically with that kind of network, you meet different people, you gain different insights, and then it's also helpful for you to connect with them. So for example, you can collaborate on different projects. Say this person is doing a startup. Okay, I need help in doing my predictive modeling or whatsoever with my business. So you can work with that. Work with them pala. So on a different project, so you can choose different types of fields and for you to enjoy and for fun din. So for me, yun yung huge advantage in taking a class and a degree. Kasi if pag solo mo lang, you're on your own, di ba, no man is an island. So although if you're really, really, really good and you have the aptitude for it, you still need to talk with other people to exchange ideas with. So for me, yun. But if you're a person who's comfortable with taking online courses, okay din yon. So, unless you do research talaga on what you really want to do. Kasi there's a lot. You can do health AI, banking and finance modeling, or supply chain management. So, I mean, there's a lot of things. And yun yung stand ko on that. So it depends on the person. Kung ano yung goal mo talaga. If you want to be a super technical person, then go take a PhD. You want to be a scientist, go take a PhD. Parang ganun. But if you want to do some practical projects and you don't have the time, you don't have the resources, then you can do the courses online on your spare time.
All right. Thanks, Elisa. How about you, Arian? What's your perspective on that? Taking the masters, do you think it's necessary to progress a specific career? Or was it able to help you as well? Do you recommend that also, Pat, to our listeners? What's your perspective on it?
Kind of agreeing with what Elisa have mentioned. But of course, if I'll be able to recommend it, then I'll be recommending you guys to take it. on my own personal vindication. Kasi there's a lot of things to learn, and there are a lot of personal experiences that I also learned a lot of things, and I'm currently learning a lot of things right now. So yes, many resources are available online. We can say that, but the exposure at times comes from other people, kasi or in a network. And in masters, you're actually going to be challenged as well. And mahirap kasi minsan na, yun nga, when you're alone, you don't know na if ito bang skills ko, paano ko ba siya ma-measure. And for me, with the master's degree, you're going to be able to measure it as well na am I performing well ba? And also, you can relate with other people kasi sometimes yung mga kasama mo dito sa class na to are also working on the field. So that way, you can also share your knowledge and you can learn from them as well. And even from your own professors, it's a classroom where knowledge and information are being exchanged um, tap and spontaneously. So at the end of the day, if you can and if you have the time and resources for it, I'll recommend for you to take it. But if iniisip mo na requirement siya, no, it's not really a requirement for the career. It's just really an optional if you want. But of course, it has its own pros and cons. I no,
How,
it has its own pros. Pros. Sorry about the cons. Has its own pros. Pros. Ayan, yun lang.
Sasha, how about you? Parang, what's your perspective and take on this?
Yeah, I guess it's really a personal decision based on Elisa and what Arian has been saying. For example, for me, I needed that kind of structure wherein you're in a classroom environment, there's a professor that's forcing you to learn, or you're paying to learn. So that kind of environment helped me break into AI faster, or into data science faster. But yeah, same sentiments as what Arian said. I don't think it's a prerequisite. If you really are determined to get into that kind of into this kind of career, then you can self study. There are short courses that are available if a master's degree is too pricey also. So I guess just be more open minded, and it also boils down to you as a person, I guess.
Okay. Nice. What do you think naman is the best way, especially for those who are not coming from a technical background? How do you think that they can actually build a career in artificial intelligence? Kasi parang right now people are thinking I need to have a technical skills. Like I need to be coming from IT. I need to be coming from a computer science degree. Do you think there's a way from people who are doesn't have a technical background to jump into the space itself and to learn that learn programming, learn math, and learn the machine learning and other aspects of it?
Um, yes, definitely. There is really a way to learn. So, um, dun sa mga available resources in the internet, for me, that's one way to start talaga. I would watch a YouTube video in order to understand a very basic concept. Like, how does an internet work? How does this machine learning work? Mga ganon. As a starter lang, just to get if you're interested or not, diba? Kasi minsan, pag di mo get, di ka na may interested. So for me, you can take that path para to test the waters. Tapos for me, that also inspires you to like, okay, pag nag-gets ko siya, okay, I want to know more, diba? So, that will now prompt you to explore other avenues like, oh, sige, after ko na ng YouTube videos, maybe I'll take this short course na or whatever. I also recommend, kunwari, if you want the structured thing but cannot afford a master's degree, I mean, just to relate to the previous question also, I think you can take boot camps kasi in that way, you also learn with other people, but hindi siya yung parang super hardcore na, okay, master's level. Kasi for me, at the end of the day, what you need to build are experiences and of course certification if you want to get hired or if you're a freelance, diba, para piliin ka ng client. So those things are important naman. It's also nice to join communities, for example, in Facebook or Reddit, if you're struggling with a certain project. So in the learning process kasi, you really need other people, that's correct. So yes, you can do that on a face-to-face basis, but you can also do it online. Pero online doesn't stop you from asking. And that's really an important skill to have then, like, don't be afraid to ask because that's where you learn talaga. You know, there's also Stack Overflow, diba?
Yeah. That's nice that you highlight nga, opportunity to have bootcamp. Especially CFTW has bootcamp. Eskwela Labs has their own bootcamp to immediately help those people who are, parang don't have the necessary resources for them to learn and in order for them to build the skills. So yun, some people are actually leveraging also yung internship, joining a specific company for them to grab the skills and be able to gain the experience as well. So again, it's relatively, as mentioned by our panelists, it's up to you guys as to which path as you would want to you would want to like walk into with respect to growing your career. If you guys would want to prefer to take in a master's to progress it, or if you are keen enough na okay na sa'yo yung Coursera because you are a discipline, you're so disciplined that you can handle and manage your own time. And yeah, you have opportunities such as going into boot camps or internship for you to grow your career. Going back to the question that I have then to kanina, for those na walang technical background, how they can actually, what's the best way for them to have a career in AI? You mentioned a while kanina, Sash, na parang focus on yung grabbing yung mga low-hanging fruits. Can you like elaborate on that further, especially for those na, parang, nag-start ako, business lang talaga yung alam ko, or alam ko lang a specific field, chemist ako na gusto ko mag-transition. Ano yung best way for them to be able to transition into AI?
Okay. For example, there's actually a question dun sa Q&A na parang creative person siya, yung profession niya. So I'm thinking that given na maybe he or she is on the graphic side of things, he or she can focus on data visualization first. So trying out different charts and being able to tell a story properly using these charts para hindi siya ma-overwhelm with the math. He can focus on the insights first. Parang ganun.
Okay, that's nice. So I think one of the we're onti na lang yung questions natin, so we'll probably be ending na rin. So based on your experiences, what are some of the most common questions, struggles, and complications that our participants here should be prepared when they decide to start a career in artificial intelligence? Maybe we can start with Elisa.
Actually, one common question is yung kanina which we discussed is getting a formal education versus ganun. So we tackled that. And I think another thing that comes to my mind also is in terms of specializing. So basically, AI is very, very general. So one of the struggles, like for me, myself, is choosing a specialized path in AI. Do I want to be a machine learning expert? Do I want to be an NLP expert? Or something like that. So, ang advice ko with that is to do a lot of research. And if you have certain experience on something already, like for me, I had the banking. So might as well go to finance or insurance or other financial institutions that tackles AI and data science. So yeah, that's one of the struggles of doing AI. So you should be really prepared for that and do some research on what you actually want to do, because the environment is really fast changing, diba? So you have to be updated with everything that's coming up. I mean, there's a new technology. So the packages in Python, there are a lot of mga bago sinusulat ng other programmers. So you really have to be at keep up with the pace of that kind of uh, pacing. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yun lang.
it's nice to hear that you were able to highlight that clearly, Elisa, yung sa specialized. Like people tend to think of artificial intelligence or like machine learning as like one big job
One big,
na
yeah.
can do everything from cleaning
Baka siya,
data up
baka
until
siyang, it's not a one solution for everything. Like, kunyari sa movies, time travel, yun na, tapos na.
so it's good that you were able to highlight that there are some specialized, right? If you would want to focus on analyzing text data, and then iba
Oo.
pa yun, di ba? Iba pa yung level of the data, parang different data, iba pa yung specialization ng specific yun nga, industry na kung in banking and
Oo.
insurance ka ba or sa manufacturing or
Yeah.
sa anong space. And I think that this is where important din yung ano, especially for coming from a technical background, no, na they can leverage their expertise on a specific industry na
Uh-huh.
parang kasi nag-build na sila ng expertise doon, di ba? Parang it's easy for them now to like add that extra skill of understanding artificial intelligence and machine learning in itself. And then,
Oo.
you know, they have already a specialized na skill because they already know and understand that. On
But
your
there's
end,
nothing,
go,
also, I
go.
would like to add, there's nothing wrong with being a generalist also. So if you're like the kind of person na who wants to tackle this and that, so it's perfectly okay also to be a generalist. And anyway, if you have a general view of what the problem is or different perspective, then it's helpful in solving problems kasi you can tackle it at a different angle. So if you have a lot of exposure, so it's also there are pros and cons in between specializing and being a general AI scientist. Ganun.
We're giving our audience yeah, different parang a time to think as to where how do they are going to progress their career. How about you, Nyssa? Parang what are the some most common questions and struggles and complications that someone should be prepared of when if they decided to start their career in artificial intelligence?
For me siguro, um, I would appreciate if one has a good foundation of how computers work, especially like the algorithms, the automata, even on that level, no? Because it helps you to like progress from understanding one concept to another. I just think that learning is one thing, but understanding is the key. So if you're a fast learner and can understand, and then you would be able to implement those understanding of yours into code, then that's good, di ba? So dun talaga yung pinaka-challenge for me, like, how does this algorithm work? Ano, what are the concepts behind, like, bakit ganito yung ginagawa niya? For example, understanding gradient descent. Nung una, hindi ko siya gets talaga. Like, there's this formula, and then parang, I don't understand kahit ano. So, ilang ulit ko siyang inaral, nanood ako ng maraming videos just to get it. And then eventually, okay, gets ko na siya. So, for me, it's one struggle. And then another is on the implementation side. Like, what if you understood na, and then now you'll code it, represent whatever concept you have, and then it didn't work. So for me, that's where your patience will be tested, as mentioned a while ago, no? So that's also a struggle kasi you have to keep your computer open, and then paggising mo, oh shucks, it failed yung whatever code that you run. So parang for me, ang advice ko, when those things happen, don't give up. Promise. Like sometimes maybe you just need to talk to another person or have others review your code, and then eventually you'll arrive at the solution. Kasi for me, well, since this is logic, no, parang more or less there's a solution to that. You just have to Google, read a lot of stuff in Stack Overflow. So at the end of the day, persistence is and perseverance is kailangan. So yeah.
All right. How about you, Arian? What are the common questions na kailangan i-prepare nung starters natin who are joining us in this webinar?
So before I answer that, can I just add din sa good practices to learn?
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing I can recommend for you guys is to, if you can, join internships. Kasi one best way to learn is to actually by doing it by yourself. And malay nyo, yung maging advisor nyo is one of the panelists here. ay, or my supervisor niyo sina Sash, si Miss Elisa, or si Nyssa, malay niyo, di ba? Ayun, yun lang. So, if you have a good supervisor and if you're going to intern in a good company, you will definitely learn. Kasi, yun, they'll be imparting knowledge to you. And also for this question naman, um, usually it's for my case it revolves around math talaga eh. And a little adding up lang dun kay Nyssa. Yun nga, there's a lot of questions in my mind. So for example, so binigyan tayo ng SVM. Sige, SVM. So, okay, SVM. So nag-SK learn tayo. We fed it. Oh, it worked. Pag tinanong tayo, bakit ganyan yung SVM? So, anong ginagawa niyan inside? Pag di mo nasagot yun, so so you're basically doing like a black box, di ba? So those are the things na need natin, that's one of the struggles. Kasi yes, we can use them, they're readily available, but do we understand them, right? So if you're going to understand them naman, most of the time kakainin ka nung sa math and stuff. And then a lot of research papers. So those are one of the struggles na dealing. So a recommendation lang on how we can deal with them. Again, medyo paulit-ulit lang ako. You don't have to be an expert on it. You just need to understand the fundamentals of what's happening actually inside. So with that, kapag tinanong ka, so for example, if they ask you what's happening inside an SVM, may explain mo siya carefully. And actually, that's one of the main challenges na nangyayari ngayon sa industry. There are a lot of people jumping in, but they're not really kind of understanding it. Ano naman, parang, yun, may pros and cons din kasi talaga. And we would really recommend na you guys really understand of what's happening for our own good na rin as well. Yan lang.
Yeah, anything that you would want
And
to add on that? Sorry, continue, Arian.
go. Sige, sir. Sige. So, even if you're going to apply on a lot of AI companies, some of them are going to ask you some of the questions like revolving around algorithms or maybe some statistics yan. So, yun lang. Keep in mind na hindi mo siya need kakaaralin to the point na kaya mo na mag-derive sa board on the fly. Tapos, ano yung softmax, ganyan. Yan. What you just need to have is yung fundamentals nga. So that way, if you're going to be asked, if you can explain this, you'll be able to. And if nag-feed ka ng data mo, what's happening inside, you'll be able to tell right away and save a lot of time inside of what's happening. Yan.
Sash,
One
anything
of
that
the
you would
struggles.
want to add?
So I guess building on what Arian said, one thing that I've learned when dealing with business also is that you shouldn't be afraid to ask questions. Kasi parang, I don't know if na experience is there's a tendency for us to pretend na alam mo talaga yung data set, alam mo yung ginagawa mo, alam mo yung everything na nangyayari. But don't be afraid to ask questions to them. And at the same time, don't be afraid to say, I actually don't know. Kasi option din naman yung sabihin mo, I don't know, pero I'll get back to you on that a week after so that you can, instead of bluffing your way or giving, just to give an answer, it's better na parang yung sabihin mo na, I don't know, but I'll get back to you. Parang yun lang. Yun yung mga, isa sa mga struggles din with when you're facing with business na.
All right. So okay, since we're already closing, so last question ko na lang, it would be, what are your tips to our audience na already planning to career or pursue a career in artificial intelligence, how they can start, and ano yung kailangan nilang i-expect sa role that they will be having. Maybe we can start with Elisa.
Ay, yun. So, starting with the first AI job, right?
Yeah.
Expectation. So, I think you have to be ready to face the business side, because when you join a company, you're not just doing it for yourself. You're doing it for the goal of the company. It has a certain objective. So there's gonna be a lot of explaining. laying it in layman's terms in that sense for the higher management, top management to understand that. Because sometimes if you're at the top, people, the managers can see it as like, yun, like what you mentioned, isang line of code lang naman yan eh. It's easy lang. When you input this is the output. So, but there's a lot of things going in there. So you have to be able to explain it at their language. So it's another skill. Like I agree with what Sash said. Na you have to laymanize these data, these outputs, and pattern it to the business for them to understand and see the value of what you're doing and how it affects the whole company. So for me, yon, you have to explain it really well. Kasi sometimes if you explain it very technical, they get lost in the jargon. Okay, neural networks, black box whatsoever. So you have to speak at their language also. That's one skill that you have to be ready. Kasi we all know that technically you have the skills, you can code, you understand the math, you understand everything that goes behind it. But explaining it to someone who doesn't understand is a really needed skill for them to see the value of what you're doing. So yun.
Okay. What about you, Nyssa? Parang what are your tips, especially for those who are starting to build a career on AI?
Siguro man a general approach lang ako, like, uh, never stop learning lang talaga. Kasi for me, if you really want to achieve something, you do whatever it takes to reach it, no? So, if, kunwari, sabi ng Q&A kanina na sample, what if I'm an artist and want to venture into AI? Well, sometimes it requires you to know how to code. So, you must learn how to code talaga. It doesn't hurt naman to try, diba? So, yun for me ang pinaka, never stop learning. So that
Okay.
whenever you're faced with trials and failures, parang it shouldn't stop you from going forward. Edi, aralin mo lang siya kung paano. And then the next time, you'll be able to overcome it. Yun.
Okay. How about you, Sash? What are your tips for those who will be starting their career in artificial intelligence?
Don't start. I'm just kidding. No. You really, I guess it goes back to my point na you really have to be patient and you have to have grit within you. Kasi you have to pace yourself with this kind of career. So hindi you don't become a data scientist unicorn lang kaagad. Like parang it's a myth. Yun nga yung sinasabi nila. So you have to be patient with your journey na parang okay, I'm just starting out on this kind of algorithm. I'm just understanding this kind of math. Pero you're slowly building up yourself. Parang yun yung idea. So be patient kasi it's a marathon talaga.
Arian?
It's kind of similar to all of them as well. And basing on the resources, I'm sure you guys will probably know the name Andrew Ng or Andrew Nang for some. So and you'll be seeing a lot of him even in memes. So the best recommendation here is again, I've mentioned it in kanina, would be never quit. And believe me when I say this, you guys can also do it. And then, yeah, always know na your questions are opportunities for you to learn. So the people who are actually making Q&As here are actually the people na gusto talagang malaman or matuto. They're diving deeper. Yan. And there's a lot of people here, like my co-panelists here, and even the host, our host, who's very willing to teach you guys. And ayun, if you're really scared, that's okay. Kasi everyone was scared at first. But once you're in it na, or once you get the hang of it, you'll be able to know na, oh, it's just this pa, and you will be able to look back before na natatakot ka pa. And you'll be one of the people, malay nyo, one time, you'll be also one of the panelists here in the AI Pilipinas. ayun guys, never quit and always remember na to do AI for good. Whatever temptations there may be, just do AI for good. Okay? Yan lang guys, please. For us. For everyone.
All right, so I think we're going to open the floor for our audience Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead straight to the Q&A box, and then we'll be asking those questions to our panelists. So may mga nasagutan na rin dito na questions. Maybe we can, ano yung question kanina that was able to answer. Yes, so from Alad Kaing Koy, this is for both Arian and Sash, that you were able nga to share about the visualization and highlighted on that. Pa yung mga questions dito. Ayan. So meron dito from Sophia Yu. Anyone can answer. So she is a graduating student and she's really interested in artificial intelligence, especially computer vision. So while I was looking for internship, I couldn't find a company that deals heavily with computer vision. May I ask if there are any company that deals with computer vision in the Philippines? So anyone can answer. If you guys are doing some internship in your companies, maybe you can open the floor. If you guys know someone na yun nga, baka may computer vision na internship, anyone from our panel, or maybe you can do some recommendation. Go, Elisa.
I think sa UP, because some of my friends from physics worked on, I forgot the name of this professor, but they worked on the paintings of Amor Solo. So that involves computer vision. So I'm not sure if they have funding for certain research related to that. Basically, nung nag-present sila is that they were detecting if this is a real or fake Amor Solo painting, depending on the light, depending on the color of the mixture of the colors. So that's definitely something maybe you're interested in. Sino ba siya? Sorry, what's her name?
Sophia. Sophia Yu. Yeah.
Sophia. So that could, you can look it up, Sophia, if you want to, if you're interested in that kind of art, imaging, computer vision.
Anyone who would want to add?
If
Panel.
we're
Go,
going to,
Arian.
I'm going to ask you back. Sorry, guys. As for now, I think internships in Senti are currently full, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If
Ano,
I'm going to ask you
Nyssa and Sashmir, baka may alam kayo na company or any recommendations that you guys have? Okay. Right. I think yun nga, I think sa mga school has mentioned by Elisa, may universities has research groups. Sometimes they hire research assistants. So if you have access to those universities, maybe you can reach out to those professors. Sometimes they do have research projects that they apply to the Department of Science and Technology, or they apply to different organizations abroad. So I think it's the best way to also to learn from the experts themselves who does that type of research work. So may mga ganong opportunities na research assistant or apprenticeship in both universities and also in some companies. Another question here from Francis Joshua Arabaka. How are AI teams structured? So what are the usual roles in an AI team? Anyone who would want to answer? Sash, do you have any ideas?
So not with my current setup kasi it's quite flat. Pero what I know is that you usually have a data engineer. So these are the people that's responsible for doing the transformation on your data. And then once the transformation has been done and cleaned, you pass it to your data scientists. So that's where you develop basically the modeling. And there's also a data manager, I think, wherein parang siya yung nagpa-project manage nung data science project mo, basically. What else pa ba? There is still, parang may mga data analysts pa rin. They're the ones who extract the insights from your models or from the visualization that you created.
Elisa, do you have something to
To
add?
add lang, maybe sometimes if the team is dealing with a lot of data, maybe may assign data visualization expert. Kasi it's more on the presentation of the data and how you explain it to the business side. So some teams have their own data visualization experts. Yun lang.
Okay. Anyone who would want to add? Nyssa?
Limited lang yung exposure ko eh. So what I can only describe is yung sa amin, which is just a small startup. Right now we have an AI engineer and then a lot of data scientists, and we have a data science manager and or slash AI manager kasi nga maliit lang. And then for our roles as we're data scientists, um, we do the data gathering, so we do the scraping, we do some surveys, or we do some uh, survey or research on the internet, ganyan. Tapos we also do the building of the model, and then we also do data visualization. For the AI engineer naman, yun, more on computer vision projects, whether it's a sound, like voice cloning or something, ganun lang.
All right. Arian?
Sorry, I'm answering some of the questions in private. Can I ask what the problem is again? Ay, what the,
The question is like, how are AI teams structured? So what are the usual roles in an AI team? Coming from Francis Arabaca.
oh, okay. So, damn it, do I get the question correctly? So, it's basically like the teams on a software. Like there will be someone handling, and then on my experience, there will be like project manager, or if you guys are into sprints, there will be a scrum master, and then there will be a leader on your team. So for example, we will have one machine learning engineer, and there will be data engineers and also data scientists. That way, we will be able to pipeline everything from the data gathering, data transformation, all the way up to the actual implementation where our models will begin inferencing some of the real world data that would be coming in for the solution.
Yeah, so I think just to add then on terms of how the teams are structured, so it's dependent on how big the project would be.
Yeah.
So if the project is big, so you would probably be needing data scientists, which is like the goal is to explore and experiment on the models. And data engineers would be practically, if the model is continuously being created, so you will be needing data engineers for that to build that data warehouse pipeline, and then you would be having ML engineers, which is the goal is to make sure that the models are scalable, be able to handle how many yung calls sa service. And I think there's a new role then right now in AI companies in the United States called ML Ops. So it's merging DevOps and then machine learning engineers, and be able to observe kung yung pinapublish na model are still accurate and making that pipeline automated. So may ganun ang role sa US. I think it's continuously nag-i-improve din, and continuously marami rin nag-resurface na role since the field itself is continuously growing. So you need to be updated lang din, and as to ano ba yung structure, and I think it would also vary as to how big the company and or the organizations would be. So at start probably will be two people lang who would be working, but as the team continuously like grow, you would be needing different aspects of people on the project. So next question coming from um, Kevin Cow. So how can you participate in internships just to test the waters when you have a full-time job? May mga nag-experience, may mga ganun ba kayong experience na may full-time job tapos nag-internship? Or do you have guys any friends na ganun yung experience?
I have a lot of friends
Ganun ba?
about that. Yeah, but ano to, sobrang time committed sila. And it's not actually a full-time internship. Eh. Some of them are going for a part-time internship, even though they're working full-time. They're working full-time na. So what they do, and I really admire them kasi, so after their full-time job, once they get home, they'll spend for like 3 hours or depende kung ilang oras nila na pag-usapan. So basically, they like have a mini assignment and then they'll be able to perform their internship. And then yun, so maybe once in a while, kapag nag-usap kami ulit, oh, he knows so many na parang, yeah, magugulat ka na lang, those people knows a lot na. And
Okay. Let's see. Probably for your experiences, what are the industry trends in AI that we need to know? Again, majority of them are asking on internships. So if you guys have opening for internship, that would be
kasi
helpful.
nga
I think from Lito, ayun nga, ano yung industry trends ngayon in AI that you guys have observed or read, Nyssa? May
For
ano ka
me,
ba?
yung GANs, yung
Okay.
Generative Adversarial Network. Kasi the problem with AI or machine learning is that you need to have a lot of data. And gathering that data is already a problem na rin. Tapos you have to annotate and everything. So when Ian Goodfellow invented this, it was such a huge parang progress in the world of AI because these GANs can now generate any data that you want, but this is more specifically for images. No? So if you want to have a lot of cat images, ay, marami na pa yun sa internet. But if you want to have a lot of pictures na about certain food, like fruits or something, di ba? How do you create such? So what GANs does is that there are two aspects. One is the generator, one is the determinate. Yeah,
discriminator.
discriminator. Sorry. So, yung isa, siya yung gumagawa ng fake image. Tapos, ipo-full niya yung isa hanggang sa eventually, hindi niya na ma-determine ano yung real at fake images.
Game theory
So,
po
that's
yan.
one of the,
That's actually called the game theory daw. I have a friend before who really loves GANs and he explains that that's called game theory daw. Where the one fools the other.
ayun lang. So, that's one
Yeah.
of the major trends.
All right. Elisa, especially on the banking and finance, parang what are the trends, especially on the AI space that's happening on your, yun nga, on your industry?
So far, um, the banking industry kasi is just parang starting a few years back. So I think right now they are building the data science teams pa lang from scratch. So starting with the ML models like yung mga calculation of the default and the loans, I think currently yun yung focus nila right now because before it's purely statistics yung mga risk models and now they are applying data science, applying neural networks to these models to be updated. So for now, yun lang yung trend na nakikita ko. And then there's also the parang shift towards fintech. So there's a lot of in right now kasi it's more on the infrastructure and data collection. Kasi with the Philippines right now, our problem is data. Parang ngayon, exact yung DOH pa lang, they have a lot of problem with the data. So it's a really parang mahirap talaga siya gawin kasi you have to start with the clean data, we have to start with the accurate data for you to be able to build an accurate model. So, right now, kung trending sa Philippine setting, I think yun muna. But yung sinasabi ni Nyssa na GANs and image processing is interesting kasi parang they also use it to detect social distancing if in object recognition. It's very helpful right now. So if you incorporate that in a certain application or hardware which can help solve certain problem right now, so that's very helpful. The deep
Yeah.
learning and image recognition from yung future, I think, in yung next.
What about you, Sash, on your space and then on the specialized field that where you're in? Parang what are the new trends that you were observing?
So for the bank, we it's really using AI as a tool. That's what I've noticed. So we are trying to get more demand within the bank to try to see how we can leverage AI in order to make them more productive. So that's a trend that I see within the bank. But as for some a specialized a research, I'm doing more on natural language processing. So what I see as a trend there is more on using transfer learning for doing your text classification, sentiment classification. So the idea behind that one is instead of building a model from scratch, you use an existing model that has some sort of knowledge within the world to build another model to specialize. Like let's say you wanted to classify some specific sentence or something like that. So that's a trend that I see in terms of NLP.
All right. So thank you very much, guys, for answering this. So that's still a lot of questions here. Maybe you can share if you're open to share like your information to them. Maybe we can share it where they can reach where they can saan nila kayo ma-reach out. What's the best platform that they can ask help with respect to if they have any challenges. Maybe we can start with Arian. So if people would want to like reach out to you, saan ka nila pwedeng ma-reach out?
Um, so they can reach me on with my email. So is there any way now we can provide it for them better?
Yeah, so maybe we can message na lang on the chat kung, yeah, if you guys would want, if you're comfortable to share. I'm not pressuring you guys to share, but how you guys will be bombarded as well. But again,
I
for
think.
sure you can search them on LinkedIn, so you can
Oh yeah.
probably you can message them there, and yeah. So thank you so much for having and listening on our webinar tonight to explore what is it and what it takes to build a career in artificial intelligence and be able to figure out what are the necessary steps and necessary decisions that you need to think about before you jumping a career in AI. There's a lot of like nice points that our panelist was able to extract and share to us, starting from being able to build the foundations of your technical skills, understanding yung intermediate mathematics, and be able to also capitalize on your soft skills because it's a necessary skill then when you are progressing your projects from a course project into a real world, because in the real world you will be explaining a lot of things to the stakeholders and be able to laymanize all of those terms is needed. So you need to also understand yung how the algorithms work, so you don't treat it as just a one-liner code that's easy to make. So you need to also understand the mechanics of how those theories and algorithms work so that you can able to elaborate and explain that clearly to your stakeholders, to your supervisors, and to your potential clients. So it was also a nice thing that our panelist was able to highlight that you should be able to have yung patience to continuously learn and learn and learn and to pick up na if this is a hard lesson that you would be acquiring, yung repetition itself is will be helpful, and deciding as to if you're going to take on a masteral degree path or you're going to take on a boot camp. So there's a lot of options that you would be asking yourself as to which path would be helpful for you to grow your career. So all of those are being highlighted and repeated by our speakers. So again, let's have a virtual applause to our speakers tonight who was able to help us understand what are their struggles and how they were able to um, parang remove themselves out of the struggles to execute and walk into this journey of building their career in artificial intelligence. So thank you guys for listening, and I hope that you were able to learn from our speakers for tonight. So yeah, so again, don't forget, at the end of this seminar, may automatic kayo may redirect on a post survey. So you need to answer that survey so that you can have a 50% off on your deeplearning.ai course. So yeah, that's it for tonight. Thank you very much, Nyssa, Sash, and Arian, and Elisa for spending your 2 hours with us. And you can have your dinner na. Thank you so much for all of the knowledge and the expertise that you shared to our participants tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay,